If you've got more than one child, sibling fighting is probably one of the most exhausting parts of your whole entire day. The arguing, the yelling, the tattling, the constant provoking, the physical fights, whatever that looks like in your home. And oftentimes that feeling that you're just constantly breaking things up over and over and over again without anything really changing from day to day is exhausting. It's overwhelming. Most parents assume that sibling rivalry is about personality clashes. So one kid's more aggressive, one's more sensitive, one's louder, one's quieter. But today I want to shift how you understand sibling conflict completely. Because psychologically speaking, sibling fighting is almost never about personality. It's about power. And once you start to understand that, the way that you intervene or don't intervene starts to actually make a whole lot more sense. Let's start by talking about what sibling conflict is actually about. Sibling rivalry isn't random, and it's not kids being bad or trying to make your life more difficult or challenging. It's actually a predictable outcome of kids sharing a system. Your kids are sharing attention, space, resources, control, and emotional safety within the family system. When people share a system and power isn't clear, they compete for it. That's true in families, it's true in workplaces, and it's even true in adult relationships. Kids are constantly watching and learning. Who's in charge? What happens if I push? What gets attention? And maybe most importantly, what actually gets results? When leadership isn't clear during moments of conflict, kids don't just slow down and problem solve. They actually tend to escalate. So let's talk about how parents accidentally make sibling power struggles worse, even when they're trying to do the right thing. Most parents don't mean to fuel sibling rivalry, obviously. You are trying to be fair, you're trying to stay calm, you're trying not to overreact, and you're just trying to give your kids some space to figure things out and work through some stuff on their own. You hear advice like, let them work it out, don't get involved unless someone gets hurt, or they need to learn to resolve conflict on their own. This all sounds very well-meaning. However, here is the problem with that advice. When kids are dysregulated, they are not learning or practicing great conflict resolution skills. They're learning what works. And what works is typically escalating, provoking each other, performing, and pulling adults into their conflict. When parents actually step back, kids don't become problem solvers, they just become strategists. This brings us to one of the biggest traps that parents fall into during sibling conflict: fairness. Fairness obviously sounds really great, but what happens is parents start focusing on things like who started it, who did it worse or bigger, who's telling the truth. But fairness turns sibling conflict into competition. Kids learn how to bait quietly, they learn how to justify their behavior, they learn how to shift the blame, and they also learn how to win the adults over. When parents act like judges, kids start acting like lawyers, and conflict escalates instead of resolving. So here is the leadership shift that starts to absolutely change everything. Everyone is responsible for their own behavior, regardless of what somebody else did or didn't do. From a psychological standpoint, this is absolutely critical. Blame-based systems teach kids, you made me do it, and they teach them this victim mentality or victim mindset. Leadership-based systems teach you are responsible for how you respond. That doesn't mean ignoring context or emotions, but it does mean that we don't justify hitting, insults, or escalation because somebody else provoked it. Each child is accountable for their own actions. This single shift removes a huge amount of fuel from sibling power struggles. Now, let's talk about what happens when siblings are fighting over a shared thing or activity. This is where research on conflict and collaboration becomes really important. When people, and that includes kids, are competing for access to a shared resource, conflict increases. But when people have a shared goal that they have to work towards together, conflict decreases because it requires collaboration. So when siblings are fighting over something like a toy or a game or screen time or space or whatever it might be, the goal isn't to negotiate in the heat of the moment. The goal is to remove access, allow everyone some time and space to calm down and reset, and then require collaboration to regain access to that thing or whatever it is. For example, if your kids are fighting over taking turns on a video game, the most effective response isn't rotating turns mid-fight. It's both kids losing access briefly, calming down, and then agreeing on a plan before trying again. The shared goal becomes cooperation, not winning. That's how collaboration is actually learned and practiced. So let's pause and just take a minute to connect all of the dots here. First of all, when parents stop focusing on fairness, stop asking who started it, hold each child accountable for their own actions and behavior, remove rewards for escalation, and require cooperation for shared privileges, sibling power struggles lose their energy. Kids don't need to dominate when leadership is clear. They don't need to manipulate when the rules are really predictable, and they don't need to escalate when outcomes are consistent. Safety replaces rivalry. I want to end with this. If sibling conflict feels like it's just constant right now, it doesn't mean that you're doing something wrong. It means your kids just need more structure in moments of dysregulation, not more freedom. You do not need to take sides. You don't need to solve every single little problem. You just need calm leadership, clear expectations, and consistent accountability. Inside my course, Transforming Defiance, I teach parents the full system for ending power struggles with your kids, including sibling conflict, in a way that actually lasts. You can read the full blog post on sibling rivalry, a topic that's linked below, or you can join the Transforming Defiance course waitlist to learn more. And at the end of the day, leadership changes everything. You got this.